first time.
You ready? Parshas Bolok. Let's see what we can discover a little bit about Parshas CHUKAT. CHUKAT. First of all, the Parshios themselves often are linked together. For example, Bahaloscho. We ended off with Miriam speaking Lashon Hara on Moshe. Yeah. Right afterwards is Parsha Shalach. Yeah, the Meraglim didn't take the lesson of speaking Lashon Hara. They spoke Lashon Hara about Israel. Then you have, for example, Parsha Shalach. They were going to spend another 40 years in the desert. As a consequence, Moshe Rabbeinu's popularity had gone down, and Korach decided to rebel. So Korach follows afterwards. This week, what's the connection between Korach and Parshas CHUKAT? That means it's interesting. From last week to this week, how much older did the Torah get?
2 years.
You say 2 years. What would you say?
A lot.
A lot is not a very clear answer. The answer is 40 years.
40 years?
40 years, because right now, last week, Moshe was 80 or 81, Aaron was 83, 84, and Miriam was 86, 87.
Yeah.
Now Miriam's 126, she dies. Aaron is 123, he dies. And Moshe is already in the last year, 120th year.
Yeah.
So from last week to this week,
40 years.
it was 40 years.
40 years.
And it was, I mean, it's bizarre that 40 years have transpired.
Why didn't you say between the 40 years what happened?
Because nothing happened. They stayed in the desert. They went from city to city, from town to town, right? And you'll see that in Parshas Masei. There was no communication between Hashem and Moshe.
Oh, they stopped it.
It was stopped because the whole generation had to die out.
Oh.
So things, they were what we call in Hebrew, Nizifa. Nizifa means like they were in Chayru. So there was no communication. It's very strange.
Just wait the time and finish.
Correct.
Question: why did a whole generation have to die out because just a couple people spoke bad about the land?
Well, it wasn't just that a couple of people. 12 people went to spy the land. 10 people spoke bad. But after they gave their report, and they gave their report publicly, not privately, what was the reaction from the people?
They're crying. They
started crying, and well, this is wrong. We don't want to do it. We don't want to go. So it was the reaction of the people. Now, who reacted the most were the men, not the women. I mentioned to you last week that Hashem said, that the Kliyakar says, the mistake was that you said men. You should have said women. Women love Israel. It's the men who don't love Israel. Women love Israel.
Better chance.
So they locked it that way. But it's interesting. What's the connection between Korach and CHUKAT? It's an interesting connection. Listen to the connection. Korach argued that the Torah has to make sense. He was what we call the common sense rebellion. He asked questions. You have a room full of books, Sidurim. In every Sidur, there's the Shema Yisrael written 3 or 4 times. I have a room full of these books. Do you still need a mezuzah on the door?
Yeah, of course.
The answer was yes. Korach said, well, that's silly, because one mezuzah protects the whole room. I have 1,000 times the Shema written in the mezuzah, in the room. You have a coat, a baguette. It's completely blue. Do you still need a blue string on it? The answer was yes. That's it. The whole coat is blue. So, Parshas CHUKAT teaches us that those CHUKAT HaTorah, that the mitzvahs of the Torah don't have to make sense. They are gezerot. They are decrees from Hashem. We think it makes sense. We understand it. Don't kill. We understand it. But the truth is, they're all gezerot.
What means gezerot?
Something we don't understand. So Korach's whole argument to Moshe was, you're making this stuff up, right? It's not common sense. Parshas CHUKAT tells us that it doesn't have to be common sense. Now it's interesting. When they left Egypt, there was a small area called Morah, where the water was very bitter, and they got water. Moshe taught them a few different basic halachot. Kibud av v'ein, okay, makes sense. Shabbat, important. Shabbat was coming, they got the man. And he taught them back then, Parah Aduma. Now, There was no possibility of the parliament. First, they didn't have any red cows. And they didn't have the Beis HaMikdash where someone Tamei had to be sent out, or the Mishkan. And they didn't have the whole process to make someone Tahor. So why did Moshe tell to them? This was 3 weeks before they got the Torah at Har Sinai. Of all the mitzvahs, you're going to teach them Kibbut Avim, I got it. Shabbos, I got it. Teach him, I am the Lord your God. Teach him not to make idols. Teach him tefillin. There are a lot of other mitzvahs that they could have taught him. Why Parah Aduma? Because before the Torah was given, Moshe had to send the message. You're going to get 613 mitzvot. Many of them you're going to understand. Many of them you're not going to understand. That's okay. You don't understand any of them. Because nothing is common sense. You don't have to necessarily understand any of them. So it was something that was very, very significant. Okay. I'm going to go into the Parah Aduma a little bit later, but there's some more things I want to share with you. Some things I want you to understand. Miriam dies. Miriam's 123 years old. Miriam, 126. She's not going to go into Eretz Israel. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam never made it into Israel, each for their own reasons. Miriam dies. When Miriam dies, the well disappears. The be'er, the well. And everybody complains. The question is, why did the well disappear?
Because disrespect.
Why didn't the well stay? B'zchut Moshe, b'zchut Aaron. People needed water. Water is a staple. That means, what was the reason the well disappeared? So the Meforshim explain, because the Torah says, Vatama Sham Miriam, Miriam died and she was buried. Nowhere does it say they cried. Nowhere does it say they gave a eulogy. By Aaron, it says every house cried for Aaron. For 30 days.
Wow.
Moshe also 30 days.
They forgot all.
Not by Miriam. So Hashem says, a woman like Miriam dies, you don't even notice it?
You don't care.
You don't even care? No problem.
I don't care too.
In her zchut, you had water.
Yeah.
The water goes away. Let's see how fast you care.
Yeah. Everybody's like,
It's
right.
like
see-
punishment.
You're right. There was a punishment. You see, you go to the sink and you turn on the tap, there's water coming. Is that a miracle? No, it's not a miracle. But it's interesting. If you were on a desert island and I said to you, okay, could you create running water to my tent so I can take a shower at night, would you be able to build such a system?
Very hard.
No. So you would appreciate the system. You take it for
Yeah.
granted.
Why they didn't cry?
What?
Why people didn't
They
cry?
didn't appreciate her. She was a great person. They didn't appreciate her.
Because
I don't know. I just don't know. People take things for granted. People take people for granted. You go to a eulogy, you go to a funeral, and you hear about the wonderful person who died. Sometimes you say to yourself, it's such a shame that I didn't get to know this person while he was alive. How often do we
I
say
don't
that?
understand what they 40 years learn the Torah, but they know Derech Eretz.
You know
Very
what?
simple.
And you see that that's what happened to that generation. That's why they never made it into Israel. There was no Derech Eretz, is what you said, and Derech Eretz Kadma la Torah. You have to have Derech Eretz before Torah. And they took things for granted, and they didn't appreciate what they had. And now they appreciate it, because when the well came back after Moshe hit the rock, he was spoken to, whatever, we're going to talk about that. They sang Shiva, they sang a song, they gave praise to Hashem for this wonderful well. But for 40 years, the well became, it was common, it was normal, it was natural. Everybody has water. The well, they didn't think twice about it.
Rabbi, I still don't understand. The generation, they don't understand the Bishut Miriam. They every day has a
That's right,
water.
they didn't understand
And
it.
when she's died, and there's no worrying, and even don't come to Moshe Rabbeinu say sorry about your
Correct.
sister. That's
Correct. Till the water disappeared. Then they all started to realize it.
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Now, let me bring it home to you. Okay, let me bring it home to you. Last Shabbos, not this past Shabbos, last Shabbos, over a week ago, a gentleman named Rabbi Meir Zlatowitz passed away.
Yeah. So, not that.
Do you know who he was?
Yeah, the earth.
Do you know who he was? No. Do you know who he was?
tell-
Do you know who he was?
You told us.
Yeah, he told us
Right.
last.
Right?
He was very great, Rabbi.
Most people didn't know.
Yeah.
The Americans knew. The Ashkenazi, most Bukharians didn't know. I spoke a few different places of the Bukharians. They didn't know. They didn't know. Even though every shul and every school and every home has art scroll. And he opened the Torah to everybody.
1970
Right.
started, yeah.
He opened the Torah to everybody.
I heard this.
You know, Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss, he said something very interesting. He said that Erev Shabbat, Friday, Parshas Chukas, that means this past Friday is a fast day, a Yom Tzom, a fast day for tzaddikim. Tzaddikim fast on that day. Do you know why people fast on Erev Parshat Chukas? No. It's not the date on the calendar. Normally, most fast days are the 10th day of Tevet or the 9th day of Av. This is not the date. No matter what the date is, it's always Erev Shabbat Parshat Chukas. They fast. About 400 years ago, I think it was in Spain or in France, they put 24 wagon loads of books, Jewish books, Gemaras, Perushim, and they burnt them.
Wow.
24 wagon full of books. It was so bad, there was not a Jewish Hebrew book to be found anywhere. Why did they burn those books? Why? What happened? 4 weeks earlier, at that same spot, the rabbi of that city took a copy of the Rambam's Moreh Nevuchim and burnt it. Why? He says, I read it. The Rambam wrote a book to argue against Aristotle, the philosophies of the Greeks. We shouldn't have such books. So he burnt the Rambam's book. 4 weeks later, all the books of the city were gathered together in 24 wagons by the governor, whoever it was, and all burnt. When this rabbi saw this, he realized he made a horrible mistake. So they say that he traveled to Israel, and he went to the grave of the Rambam, and he asked forgiveness. And then he started to teach the books of the Rambam. But it didn't save him. He died a horrible death. They say he was tortured and killed. He died a horrible death. So because of that, because he burnt the Rambam's book, one book, and therefore 24 wagon loads of books were burnt.
Big wagons, like train.
Yeah, tremendous wagons.
It's connected.
Right? People fast on that day. Which is interesting, because here comes Meir Zlotowitz, who probably could fill 24 wagons of the books he wrote. He wrote thousands of books.
Yeah, so
Art scroll in all different languages. So it's just interesting. But it goes to the statement you made before, that when people are alive, we often don't appreciate them. And we don't see them for who they are. When they die and we go to the Levaya, we hear, whoa, wow, I didn't realize we had such a great person in our midst. But it's too late.
They take it as a routine, so it's supposed to.
Right. It's too late. We need to learn to figure out who we have around us, and we need to appreciate them while they're alive. We can benefit from them. It's too late when they're gone already. So it's one of the sad things that happen. The Be'er Maim Chaim, he said something interesting. He says you take the word Sela, which means rock, and you spell it out. Samach is Samach Mem Chof, the middle letter is Mem. Lamed, Lamed Mem Daled, the middle letter is Mem. Ayin, Ayin Yud Nun, the middle letter is Yud. The middle letters of the word rock spells Mayim. It's like Moshe hit it twice. The first time he hit it, the first letter dropped off. The second time he hit it, the word water came out. Now, I mentioned to you last week, how come the water came? If he was supposed to speak to the rock, why did the water come? And I answered to you that Moshe was so great that Hashem loved him.
Yeah,
so if Moshe did something, Hashem says, even if it's wrong, it's right. That was Korach's argument. Korach's argument was, even if you're wrong, you're right, because Hashem loves you. So that's why we don't trust you. But that's what it seems to be. Now, Rashi, when they ask, what was Moshe Rabbeinu's sin when he hit the rock? Rashi learns that he hit the rock instead of talking to it. The Ramban, he says that's silly.
he was talking.
That's silly. Because he was talking to the people, but that's silly. He says, you go out and hit rocks, see how much water you can get.
Nothing.
Then you can't say, oh, he was supposed to talk to the rock, but he hit it, so it's not a miracle. It was still a great miracle.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you a stick, go outside, knock your head against the wall, see how much water you make. It's not going to happen. So, he says, that can't be it. So he brings down the Rambam. The Rambam says that Moshe's sin was he got angry.
Yeah.
Moshe said to them, Shimu no hamorim, listen, you rebellious people, you stiff-necked people. So he got angry. And a leader is not allowed to get angry at the people.
But he was
We won't talk about
tired
Donald Trump,
of it.
but
He gets tired of it.
he's always getting angry. He's always tweeting and angry at everybody. A leader is supposed to be in control. A leader is supposed to be, people ask me all the time, I'm in all these din Torahs. And I had one today, I had one last week, we finished really crazy stuff. And people ask me, do you get angry? The answer is, inside I think I'm furious, I think there's an injustice. I don't show it. Maybe when I come home I scream and yell. I saw something with Rabbi Twersky. Listen to what Rabbi Twersky says. Rabbi Twersky, is so brilliant, and he writes all these books. So he says that he had a couple where they always were fighting. Always were fighting. And the guy would always say, no, to his wife, you're wrong, and you're such a nothing, and he'd always put her down, put her down, put her down. And it was destroying their marriage. Finally, Rabbi Twersky pointed out to him, he said to him, when you fight your wife, what's your goal? He says, to win. Okay. So when you fight your wife, you're the winner, and she's what? The loser. Have you ever thought about that? You know what people are saying? People are saying, you married a loser. How do you feel about that? He says, oh, that's terrible. I don't want to marry a loser. I want to marry a winner. So he says, so the next time you fight, let your wife win. You gotta, Rabbi Twersky is brilliant, He's brilliant. The guy was so interested in his kavod and his self-respect.
He knows what to street.
He knows what to say, man. He says to the guy, so the next time you fight with your wife, let her win so you can be married to a winner. He said that's how I fixed their marriage, he says. She was married to a winner. Can't make this stuff up. He was so brilliant at what he said. The Ravid, Rabbeinu Hananel, and I'll tell you some more about the Din Torah later, he says as follows. Moshe said to the people, what do you think? I'm going to produce water from this rock. Watch, And Hashem says, hold on. You're going to produce the water? Hashem is going to produce the water. He says that was the sin. He says Yosef lost 10 years of his life. Because Yosef said, come down to Egypt, I'll feed you. Hashem says, hold on. You're going to feed them? I'm feeding them. In Sodom, when the angels said we are going to destroy Sodom, what was the consequence? 138 years ago, they couldn't go back up.
Yeah, because we're going to...
Because we're going to destroy... What, you're going to destroy Sodom? Who are you? And not only that, when they finally were able to go up, when Yaakov had his dream, how did they go up?
Go back.
With a ladder.
Yeah,
they couldn't fly.
Yeah.
They still didn't have the wings. They had to climb you try climbing, try to climb the stairs just at the top of the World Trade Center, or whatever it is. Can't do it, right?
You're tired.
You'll be tired. Even in the apartment buildings here, try to climb on Shabbos to the top floor. You'll be tired.
Already.
So here, they says, we're going to destroy Sodom. What? You're not going to destroy anything. Then he asked, what was Aharon's sin? Moshe did all the talking, Moshe did all the hitting. But the problem was, Moshe hit twice. The first time, Aaron couldn't stop him. But after he hit the first time, Aaron should have said to Moshe, Moshe, stop. You're angry, calm down. Moshe, speak to the rock. That means Aaron should have said something. Aaron didn't, and therefore he paid a price. It comes out that if you know something, and you're right there, and you can stop your friend from making a mistake, and you simply say, I don't want to get involved. In some ways, you're just as guilty. You're held accountable. Aaron was held just as guilty as Moshe, because he didn't stop him.
But Rashi said he spoke, but the wrong...
Moshe spoke.
Yeah, but the wrong stone.
The wrong
The
stone.
stone would hide it.
Whatever, but he hit once.
Yeah.
Aaron should have stopped and said, Moshe, we're supposed to talk to the rock. He could have fixed it still. There was still room to fix.
But
Aaron didn't say anything.
But
Then he was
Aaron
guilty.
knows Moshe should talk or
Well, we
you-
assume the
you know
answer
them?
is yes, because Moshe was a Navi and Aaron was a Navi, so they both had more or less the same instructions. That means when the
If
Vuah
you
comes
know
down, they
why
all
he's
get
not
the same
stopping.
message.
if he knew
He
why
knew.
he's not didn't stop him.
Well,
that's
sometimes
the
it's not
question.
always so easy to stop a Moshe Rabbeinu, who's the Gadol Hador. How many times have you been in a room where someone is about to do something wrong and you know it's wrong? Do you always go run and stop them?
No, it's
Especially
very hard to
Rabbi.
do it.
Especially if it's the rabbi? No, you're afraid
So
to
you
stop
believe
them.
in the rabbi, so okay, big rabbi. Huh?
Yeah.
I believe in him. How I can stop him?
And the answer, what's the answer? The answer is,
You believe in him.
you have to find a way to stop him with chagol,
Yeah,
with
respect.
respect.
Yeah, otherwise you're
You
gonna
know,
be.
because getting close to Talmidei Chachomim, it's like getting close to a fire. They talk about it. Not so easy. The next thing is very interesting. Listen to the next thing. Hashem said to Moshe, "Take the stick, like the stick, a special stick." And whose stick was it?
Adam Arishon.
It was Aaron's stick.
Yeah.
It wasn't Moshe's stick. And maybe that's why he took Aaron with him. Since he took Aaron's stick, he took Aaron with him.
But Hashem told him to take the arrows.
And take Aaron's stick. And he says, take the stick that is before Hashem. There was a special stick inside the Ohel Moed that had the buds and the flowers, so it needs water. So he wanted not Moshe's stick, Aaron's stick. So the Rogatchover has a very fascinating thing. He says, the well dried up. There was no more well. People still had water in their houses. They had it in glasses and pitchers and barrels. People kept in their houses water. So they weren't thirsty. What were they upset about? If the water dried up, there were no more mikvahs. If there were no more mikvahs, there were no more going to mikvah for Tarat HaMishpacha. If there were no more mikvahs for Tarat HaMishpacha,
They're not gonna have a baby.
people were quite angry. The men were very frustrated, very angry. So he says, that's why it's called it Mei Midiva, the water of fighting. Because they were fighting, the houses were fighting, they were all fighting. When there's Sholem Bayit problems in the house, who was the fixer of Sholem Bayit? Aharon. Right, that was his job.
Yeah.
Aaron was the Oev Sholem, the Rodev Sholem. The Gemara says that when Aaron died, everybody cried because everybody loved him. There is a medrash that says there were 80,000 children in the desert that were born called Aharon. That's a fascinating thing.
Wow.
That means there are thousands of children. The most common name of baby boys in the desert was not Michael or Ahmed or whatever it was.
You counted how many times, how many days he
Yeah,
should do the Shalom Bayit.
right.
More than 50, I think, a day.
Yeah,
30
it
a
was
day.
really great. I do 2 or 3 a day. I'm
No time.
exhausted. He was doing 40, 50 a day. There was 80,000 children
Name our.
named Aharon.
Wow.
That's
Zechut.
pretty impressive. So if there was a problem of Sholem Bayit, so of course Moshe brought Aaron with him. When they hit the water, they were going to get the water to the mikveh. So it's interesting, they couldn't use Moshe Rabbeinu's stick, because Moshe Rabbeinu's stick was made out of sapphire. And if the water is in a keli, it's pasul for mikveh. So they needed a plain stick. That was Aaron's stick. So Aaron's stick was able to guide the water into the mikvahs. So the people wanted water. They wanted water for the mikveh, not that much for drinking. Moshe wanted Aaron to tell the people, don't worry, it's happening, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. So that's why all the players were there, and that's why the sticks were used. He has this whole thing, the Rogatchover, that really you don't even think about for a moment. You don't realize that this was going on was very, very different than what was happening all the way around. In the end of the Parsha, it says, Vayisu b'nei Yisrael, vayachanu, and they camped ba'arvos Moav, me'ever le'yarden Yerecho. We call it Yerecho. So they ask, why was the city called Yerecho? What is the shorish? What is the root of the word Yerecho? Reach. What is reach? Smell. He says that Yericho was a city that had trees, afarsamon trees. persimmon. Persimmon is like a peach tree or something. He says it smelled great.
Wow.
The city Yericho was called the city of good smell.
Uh-huh.
We're going to know about Yericho because there was the wall around in Yeshua and the wall came tumbling down. But he says that the city Yericho was called Yericho because it had a very pleasant smell. It was a city of a nice, nice smell. And therefore, it was something great. I had the Din Torah this week. I'll tell you a few things from the Din Torah. It was very difficult because it was a divorce case going on for 10 years.
Wow.
10 years. Her husband, the guy's husband, the woman's husband, was a very wealthy man. He claimed on his tax return he only made $27,000 a year. So he had no money. You know, if she needed money for food, he gave her $75 a week, maybe, very little for food. Had no money. But he owned buildings in Williamsburg. One building, let's say he had a building with 5 apartments. How much do you think that's worth? Maybe $2 million, that building. He had 2 such buildings. But they weren't his. One he gave to a son, one he gave to a daughter, we put it in a corporation. So she went to court, but because she signed that she would go before Bet Din 10 years ago, the court says you have to go to Bet Din. Because New York State is an arbitration state. The judges don't work hard. The judges push everything to arbitration if they can. So she ended up having to go to Bet Din. From a halacha point of view, when 2 people get divorced, what does the wife really get? Almost nothing. You know, almost nothing. And he had a complete legal staff. He had expensive lawyers there and everything else. And she had me, and I don't really charge. And she said that. She says, she asked the court that he should pay her legal bills. We don't have to pay Rabbi Bryks because he doesn't charge me anyway. And they all looked like I was nuts. And it probably was. At any rate, it was, so she had nothing, right? She had no claim. In New York State, she would have had a claim equitable distribution, even though she stayed home and had the babies, they had 6 children, she would have been entitled to half. But we were in Beis Din, according to halacha, she really gets nothing. And I argued a lot of different things. One of the Dayanim asked me, he says, when she went to court, her husband sat here and all 6 children sat with the husband. How come no one sat with her? That was the question. I says, well, he's worth about $6 million. So I can think of 6 million reasons why the children sat with the husband. If you give half of that to the wife, then I bet you the children will sit with the wife and the husband. They'll have 3 million reasons each to sit with each one. That was an interesting answer. I thought that was a very good answer. At any rate, at the end, he really wants to give his wife a get. So I said, she's not obligated to take the get. And Sfaradim, you can divorce against their will, but not Ashkenazim. So I said, he has to placate her. In the end, the Beis Din wrote an interesting psak. They gave her $100,000 for her share in the buildings and business, but if she accepts the get, they'll add another $300,000, making it $400,000
Altogether or over
altogether.
At once?
At once. And then he has 30 days to put that money in escrow in the Beis Din. This guy makes $27,000. Okay?
How are we going to prove he got
How's
money?
that matter? So we want to know if he didn't or no, what are the consequences? They said, don't worry. I got a letter today. This was Wednesday, Thursday. They wrote up Thursday? Thursday it was. Today is Monday, right? 4 days later, I got a letter, bless you, from the Bet Din. Please, Rabbi Bryks, please be advised, the husband has deposited all $400,000. He already gave it. Here's a guy who makes $27,000 a year. He already gave all $400,000.
To get the divorce.
So now it's there. Now she has to move out of the apartment.
Oh, wait,
So I argue that if she moves out of the apartment, she has no money to put down a down payment. So he says, no problem. I'll throw in 3 months' rent, throw in another $6,000. And if she moves out in the next 30 days, she can take whatever she wants from the apartment we live in. She can take all the beds, all the furniture, all the pots, all the pans, everything.
Wow.
Apartment is his?
Sure. Apartment was her father's. He tricked the father to write over the apartment, thinking to both of them. No, only to him. They went to a lawyer, he couldn't read English, he signed, the apartment went to him.
Tricky.
In the Din Torah, one of his rabbis was sitting with him, and she was screaming at this rabbi, the wife, what kind of a lowlife are you? What kind of a person are you? I'm not even going to call you rabbi, I'm going to call you mister, this and that. The guy takes out a roll, cuts it in half, puts in some cheese he had washed, and he sits there and he eats the roll.
How what?
He's eating a roll
rabbi?
with cheese, the rabbi. It's like supper time, he's eating supper. So she says, are you crazy? You're eating supper? Now in the middle of the Din Torah? I'm screaming at you. He says, I know, it's just like home. And he starts eating. When I eat dinner at home, my wife screams at me. So when you started screaming at me, I got hungry, so I ate. It's like, I feel like I'm at home, he says. I feel like I'm at home.
Ay.
It's an interesting world we live in, but there's a certain element
Why,
of injustice.
why her husband wants to get to her?
They don't like each other for the longest time.
Yeah, but he could live without giving a get, no?
He wants to get remarried. I'm sure that the minute he gives that get on Monday, by Tuesday he'll be engaged, and by Wednesday he'll be married.
Without giving get, he can marry, no?
No,
Not long.
Woman,
no, you can't have two wives. There's a cherem Rabbeinu Gershon that you can't have two wives. Now, Sfardim never accepted the cherem Rabbeinu Gershon. They did originally, but when it expired, they didn't take it back. So a Sfardi man can give a get in Beis Din. If the wife says, I don't want it, we say, too bad, the get is here,
Yeah.
don't take it. And I've done that. And if the husband wants to get remarried, that's a different discussion, but they get remarried. It's an interesting question. Let's say the man gives his wife a get. They're divorced Jewishly, but they don't have a civil divorce.
Yeah.
Now he wants to get remarried Jewishly. Is he allowed to?
No.
There are many rabbis who will say no, because you have a civil marriage, you don't have a civil divorce.
Yeah.
Other rabbis will say, but he has a get. So I don't care about the civil, he can get married. It's a big debate, it's not very clear. It's happened, there's newspaper articles about it.
no, what do you think, she won or she lost anyway?
So the answer is, afterwards, they came over to me and they said to me, job well done. His lawyer, he says, you did a good job. She got $400,000.
Over nothing.
They wanted to give her absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Now, $400,000, you can take that $400,000, you can invest and make 7-8%. You can live off of that and pay rent and everything else, and she'll be okay. So, and then her parents are elderly. When they pass on, she'll take over their house. So she'll be okay. It's not $1 million, it's not $2 million, but we weren't there. We were at zero. We went from zero to 400,000. In the eyes of the Beit Din felt they really did a very generous job for this woman. And in some ways, that's very true. They were very generous to her. She's going to get $400,000. That's a lot of money. And maybe not if she spends it overnight. I know people that get a few $100,000 and they go into the stock market and 2 days later they're broke. They have nothing. And we all know people like that. I did a mortgage for somebody who told me they won the lottery, $8 million. I said, $8 million? 2 years ago. Why do you need a mortgage? You should, she has nothing left. All $8 million she spent. They bought a boat and it didn't work out. She bought this, they went on a trip, she went around the world, she went to Atlantic City, whatever the reasons are.
All's gone.
$8 million, all gone.
Wow.
That's shocking, right?
Yeah.
$8 million, that's,
Always
go through $8
easy
million,
come,
that's
easy go.
crazy.
Easy come, easy go.
And that's why a person who's a gambler
Yeah.
is not kosher to be a witness. Because he doesn't understand the value of money. A gambler thinks easy come, easy go, I'm up one day, I'm down one day.
Yeah.
You don't understand the value of money, you're not a kosher witness. You have to know what it means to earn money, you have to know what it means to lose money. You have to be part of the world, you have to be part of society.
The amount of the 400,000, they didn't put it, or he just wanted to give her if she
No, the
agreed with
Beit Din,
get?
that was the Beit Din's decision.
No, if she said okay with the get, she get 400.
She gets 100.
Yeah.
for all her investment. But if she accepts the get b'ratzonah hatov, with her goodwill, because if she doesn't accept the get, they might let him get remarried without a get. They're going to decide that. Het me'er rabbanim. But if she accepts the get out of her own free will,
She gets
he has to.
400.
She gets another
How
300,000.
they didn't know that he agreed to pay 400.
They knew how much he had. They knew that he had, and they knew he had 10 times that.
No, he would say no. He could say, no, I don't want to pay 400.
Then he's not going to get divorced, and they're not going to let him get
But you want to
remarried.
get married.
But he
You
was
wanna get married.
interested in it.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
You wanna
I'm
get
telling
married,
you,
yeah.
I will only have to hear about it because I don't think I'm going to get an invitation.
Go on.
I can think of 400,000
She-
reasons why I'm not going to get an
So she is
invitation.
happy with the decision.
Of course.
I want her to be happy with it. Sometimes when you're in a fight, and that fight is your whole life,
And yes.
and now it's over, sometimes you're not happy. Like I said before, people want to win. There are no winners. When you go to court, there are no winners.
Fine.
When you go to mediation, I do a lot of mediation, there are no winners. A lot of in Torahs, there are no winners. You know, everybody comes in, and we're always the bad guy. You know, we can't.
She
you
got
know,
the kids?
The kids are all married. You see,
Oh.
she wanted to get divorced 10 years ago.
Oh, she's older than
She stayed, yeah, she's in her late 50s.
Oh.
She stayed married just so all her kids would get shidduchim,
Oh.
and nobody would know they're divorced.
Oh.
Some people do that. Some people stay married, even though they were living in separate rooms and they had no relationship.
Oh,
And that was her choice, and his choice.
But kids still like father more than
Yeah. Do, re, mi.
like mine.
Yeah, you know. But, and there may be other reasons. I don't really know the children, so I can't really say that. Just my speculation. But, you know, and sometimes we suggest people get divorced. It's better for the children because it's less confusing.
Yeah.
But here, they're Hasidic, you know, so that was what they did. You know, they decided to get divorced. Other people, you know, get divorced.
Sad,
And,
very sad.
you know, it's sad when there's children, and the children have to deal with it. And then if they get remarried, you know, and they're small children, it's very hard. It's called blended families. Very difficult, very, very difficult. How do you deal with your wife's children? How does your wife deal with your children? Extremely, extremely difficult.
Original marriage is different than mix all this nonsense.
Correct.
It's very, very hard.
And the original marriages are hard also, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's not easy, yeah, but it's better than those all.
If you
all
last, you last as long as I lasted, you deserve it. I just had my anniversary. My anniversary is June 28th, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. So it was just Rosh Chodesh Tammuz was last week, right? And June 28th, today is July 3rd, so it was 5 days ago.
Then we come to America.
Right.
How many,
21 years ago, I'm coming.
how many
Okay.
years of marriage?
41.
July 3rd, we come.
So it's
That's not bad, right?
We
anniversary.
come next day. Boom,
What?
boom, I said, what is this?
What is it?
Anniversary is when it's 5 and 10, no?
No, every
Oh,
year
the
it's
Jubilee
anniversary.
is the Jubilee, no?
Jubilee is
Yeah, yeah,
50th year. It's
21
not
years.
Jubilee or Diamond or whatever it is. I think Diamond is 25, I already passed
Yeah.
that. I don't know what 41 is called.
No, 25 is a gold, I think.
Gold. I'm already on platinum. I'm
Diamond
already
is
41.
50.
I want a purple heart or a medal,
Anniversary is every year, right?
a congressional medal of honor or something. You know, I don't know what I want.
40.
It's not easy.
41 is you know, listen, you know. You think that's easy? 41 years? No way.
Hard way.
Depends.
No way. It depends. It
It
depends.
depends, but it's still, no, it's a lot of
It
things
depends.
going on.
A
Still,
lot of things. And
Each
for
generation
me,
is
I
different.
deal with a lot of couples, a lot of people. And, you know, and I counsel these people and I advise them not to get remarried right away because they come with a lot of baggage and they have to
Yeah.
sort through.
Clean
and the
up.
kids,
So
there's
you,
a lot
and
of
you
things.
learn from this experience, I think.
I've learned, not always the good things. My wife often says to me, you know, how do you function after listening to all that? You know, she hears
Yeah.
only the screaming and the yelling.
Much
So,
stress, yeah.
you know, she wonders how I function. You know, after listening to all that, I say, who listens? But there's yeah, who says, I'm drawing
You
pictures.
listen, but you don't take.
I don't absorb it.
Yeah.
One of the things I don't get excited. I have a very calming
Hashem
effect.
helps.
It's very hard to do
That
it.
could
So
be.
forget about it.
You know,
Two people come with
and if
100,
it's a
everything
good thing I
free
don't
on you.
like liquor, because afterwards I could use a good drink sometimes.
Yeah, take the
But,
lights.
but to me, I like Coca-Cola. I mean, after a hard
Make
day,
you calm down,
take a
right?
can of Coca-Cola.
Don't make
I
it
told you,
count.
if you ever brought me Mishloach
I'm
Monos,
not excited.
a chocolate bar, a case of Coke, some ketchup, I mean, those are the things that's
Okay.
that's what, that's what I like, you can buy me all the other stuff, but I don't drink it, I don't, if someone really
Wine.
knows me,
Wine.
wine, Shabbos I drink wine.
Yeah.
During the week I really don't drink. Sometimes I'm very frustrated that there's a bottle of wine in the fridge that only has this much in it, and I don't want to do it the whole week till next Shabbos. So no one's looking out for myself, drinking it. Only because
You don't want it to be spoiled.
right, I just don't want that little bit of wine left in the fridge. At least a little bit of wine like that left in the fridge. The Kli Yoker, it's 9:15. That Rabbi Tversky's story is great. It was really great. I had another question. Listen to this question before I get to the Kli Yoker. Very interesting question. It says a guy ordered, let's say from Seasons or Aaron's. You call up an order. I'd like 2 dozen eggs. I would like a pound of flour. I would like some yeast and baking powder. And they send you the delivery, and you put it all together. You're making a cake, and you realize afterwards that they didn't send you baking powder. They sent you baking soda.
Wow.
So it all got ruined. So now you call up Seasons and you say, they sent me the wrong thing. You're supposed to send me baking powder, send me baking soda. So he says, well, send me back the baking soda. I'll send you the baking powder. I can't, I used it already. He says, okay, so I'll send you new baking powder. No, I used it and I ruined the eggs and I ruined the flour and I ruined the yeast. I want you to send me the whole thing again.
Wow.
So they say, well, our mistake was baking powder and baking soda. Our mistake wasn't the eggs and the yeast and the flour and everything else. So who's right?
It's their fault for mishearing what they said. So
But-
therefore,
Yeah, but
they're
you have to
obligated
check.
for everything.
So you feel they're obligated for everything.
Yeah.
So the answer is, but you got the delivery and you're making the cake.
You have to look.
Do you have any responsibility at all to
Look what you're doing.
what you do?
Putting in.
Are you doing blind?
What if it's
Responsibility to
poison?
hear what I tell them. They
What?
also have the responsibility to hear correctly what I tell them.
I understand. So I misread the powder and the soda.
Sometimes happens.
So if you return me the powder, I'll give you the soda or vice versa. But you used everything without looking, without checking.
Just put it like that.
Because I expect you to get my order correct.
Yeah. When you go to the store, you come home, you check
see,
everything what you
it's
got.
interesting. Like someone asked me a question. He owed me $100, so he gave me a check. I deposited the check. But before I waited for the check to clear, I wrote 3 checks to Tzedakah, $18, $18, $18. His check bounced. Cost me $10.
Well,
But then all 3 of my checks bounced. Now it cost me $20, $20, $20. So I say to him, you cost me $70. He says, $70? I only bounced my check. I owe you $10. Yeah, but I wrote 3 checks on your check. Well, who told you to do that? Who told you to write? 'Cause I thought your check was good. I should have known better from Left Rack City. I thought your check was good. See, he says it was, but whatever it was. You should have waited
Yeah,
before you wrote 3 checks. Who's right?
bueno.
Bueno. Bueno is good, right?
Bueno, no. Understand?
Understand?
Bueno. Bueno.
Don't follow this.
That means
Wait.
I understand that he created what's called a cascade. We call that the domino effect.
Yeah.
He created the domino effect. But at some point, I also have some type of responsibility to look and to check and not to jump and to wait till the check clears. You have to anticipate certain things.
I think it should be half and half. Because you're both clearly responsible for doing what's
Ezel
wrong.
Chocham,
He's gone.
Hayodea Pesha. The Gemara says, who's a smart man? The guy who can compromise.
Yeah.
You gotta compromise.
You gotta compromise.
Both made a mistake.
So 20, 40, 60, you're saying you should pay me 10 plus another 30.
Yeah. $40.
So the halacha says that he only caused the damage. He didn't damage. It's called grama. He caused the damage. So he really is not responsible, but if he wants to satisfy his future in Shamayim with Hashem, he should really come across with all the money.
All the money.
Yeah, he should make me whole again. But he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. But at some point, we all have to take responsibility for our own mistakes, our own actions, which is something that really is lost. You know, kids no longer take responsibility for their actions. You know, they say when something goes wrong, the person with the biggest smile already found a way to blame somebody else. You know, the first thing you try to do is, I wasn't at fault. I mean, that's the first. We don't try to fix the problem. We try to figure out who's at fault, and we're very happy if it's not you. That's what happens. And that's a problem. Okay. I want to share with you this kliyakar. It's a very fascinating kliyakar. I want you to understand. It's very complicated, but I want you to try to listen to it. The kliyakar says as follows. He says, everybody is perplexed by this para aduma, this red cow. If I'm a kohen, and you're tameh, I have to sprinkle this on you on the third day and the seventh day. When I touch the ashes and I sprinkle it on you, you become tahor, and now I become tameh.
It's a paradox.
It's a paradox. Now I don't become tameh for 7 days. I only come tameh till nighttime, and I go to mikvah and I become tahor. Okay? So it was called a paradox. So the kliyakar says, well, let's understand this. Let's understand this from a certain point of view. Let's say I'm a farmer living in Israel, and I'm picking fruits and vegetables, and I have a whole basket full of carrots and apples and oranges and everything else. And then the farmer has a heart attack and drops dead and falls on top of the basket, and now he's laying on top of this big basket of fruits and vegetables. Are the fruits and vegetables tameh?
Probably yes.
The answer is no.
Why?
Why? Because the Torah says for something to become tameh, it has to be wet first. If I would have washed the apples or taken a hose and washed them down, and then the dead body fell in it, they're all tameh. So the kliyakar says, how is it possible that water makes everything tahor? A person's tameh, you go to mikvah, you become tahor.
Yeah.
Water, your hands are tameh in the morning, you put water on it, they're tahor.
Yeah.
You want to eat bread, you wash your hands with water, you're tahor.
Yeah.
Water makes everything tahor.
Yeah.
Pure. Now you make the fruit wet, now it becomes tameh.
Wow.
He says, how could that be?
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So he says that the reason is because opposites attract. And when you have the power of water that makes something tahar, it's a magnet, not to other things that are tahar, a magnet to making things tameh. He says the Yetzer Hara has two people in front of him, a Jew and a non-Jew. Who does the Yetzer Hara bother?
Jew.
The Jew. Why? Because the Jew is holy. And if you're a rabbi, you're even holier, he wants you even more. And if you want to get the Yetzer Hara out, bring him into the base of Medrash, because he'll run away, you know. It's opposites. Opposites attract, he says. So he says, think about it this way. I have a bowl with water and ashes. I pick up the ashes and the water and I sprinkle him. Since he's tameh, what does he attract? The water. That's why he becomes tahor. Since I am tahor, what do I attract? The ashes. That's why I become tameh. He says the para aduma is a mixture of water and ashes.
Yes.
Tahor and tameh all mixed up in one. So when it touches you, the opposite affects you. And when it touches me, the opposite affects me. So then he says, why not leave the ashes out completely? He says, because a person can only become tahor if he knows why he became tameh. You need to show him, you see the ashes, that's why he became tameh. He came in contact with something dead. Only when you recognize your mistake can he become tahor. That's why when a person does an Aveirah and becomes a Baal Tshuva, he's greater than the tzaddik. Because he knows he experienced the mistake and he overcame it. Then the kliyakar says, and don't let this surprise you, he says, I can give a person heart medicine or kidney medicine. If you're sick with heart disease, the medicine makes you better. What happens if I give the same medicine to a healthy person who has no heart problem? You could get sick. How's it possible? This is medicine to make you better. So if you have a heart problem, it makes you better. But if you have a healthy heart, it should make the healthy heart super healthy. It makes it sick. He says it happens all the time. He says he's spoken to doctors, and he says the medication that makes the sick man better makes the healthy man sick. Because it's opposites. He says, right before dawn, before the sun comes up, that's the darkest time of the night. Why? Because right before it gets light, it's when it's darkest. Right? When a person, hits rock bottom, right? Then you know that things are going to get better. I have a sign in my office. Everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it means it's not the end. That means you still got to pray, you still got a way to go. But in the end, everything will be all right.
Rabbi, another question. For example, you, Kohen, and I come to you, and you...
Actually, you're a Kohen. I'm a Levi.
For example.
He's Levi too.
Are you a Levi too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
Thought
try
he was a Kohen.
to do this procedure.
Yes.
Mix ashes with water.
Right.
And you spring to me.
Right.
I became
Tahar,
tahor.
and I become Tameh.
Yeah. But you allow to spring to clean another person, or you?
So that's an
you should
interesting
go to
question.
Clean yourself to.
No, it seems that if 20 people, should be able to take it and sprinkle on 20 different people.
One time.
Because
Same time.
what is making all of them tahor is the water.
Ah,
The ashes has no effect on them.
okay.
The ashes are there to explain why you became Tomei. The only thing the ashes affect is me. And after I'm done, I go to the mikvah and I become tahor at night.
Ah.
Там группу заходит,
Because
You
come
can,
out,
yeah, you
you
can
touch
clean
the
the
ashes,
group
you get
of
the
people,
tameh.
right?
Right.
They are tameh, they touch ashes.
Springs
water.
and water.
Right.
The water with the water, they get it clear.
But you can clean the group of people,
Correct.
but not just one.
do that.
You became
Tameh.
I became
tameh,
Tomei from the
and you're not
ashes.
allowed to clean the people because you became tameh.
So,
No.
but I don't think so. Otherwise, you would need for 20 people, 20 Kohanim. And maybe you're right. Maybe you do need 20
Because-
different Kohanim, but I'm not sure if that's true.
Yeah.
Very
not
good
sure that's
questions. Very good.
There's some very difficult questions. I have next week some questions that I'm not going to be able to answer for you. But some very interesting questions. We say when a Kohen makes a bracha, right?
Yeah.
He says, "Asher tishonu b'kedushaso shel Aharon." I'm a Kohen because of the holiness of Aharon. But not all the Kohanim came from Aharon. Some Kohanim came from Pinchas,
Yes.
right? And at the time, Pinchas was not a Kohen, and Hashem made him into a Kohen.
Yeah, because you killed
So how do I make a bracha that I'm a Kohen because of Aharon? Maybe I'm a Kohen because of Pinchas.
Wow.
And how come Pinchas became a Kohen?
He killed the Cosby.
He killed Cosby. So let's say I as a Levi, or you as a Yisrael would have killed Cosby. Would that have made you a Kohen?
I don't know.
It made Pinchas a Kohen.
He was Israel?
No, he was
He was
Levi.
Levi.
Pinchas was a Levi.
Yeah.
He was not considered a Kohen,
He potentially was Cohen.
but he wasn't. He was just a Levi. Because he killed Cosby, Hashem says, I'm going to make you into a Kohen. So just a question. Had the person who had killed Cosby been a Yisrael from Shevet Ruvain or Shevet Dan, would he have become a Kohen?
This is a big question.
I don't think so.
And if someone who was just a regular Levi, not Pinchas, who was from Aaron's family, had he done that, would he have become a Kohen? But you claim he became a Kohen because he killed Cosby. So there must have been another reason why he became a Kohen. You know what it is?
He was Levi.
Maybe by next week you can tell me.
He was Levi and he was from,
He was from Aaron's family,
yeah.
but he was skipped
So
over.
that's why they said
So that's why Hashem elevated him. Just curious, was that the reason? Had nothing to do with killing Cosby.
But it's possible, no?
Is what possible?
For example, he's not from connected to Cohen.
Yeah, and he could become a
He's
Kohen?
Israel, and he killed the Cosby. Became possible he be.
That was my question
kind of
to you.
them?
Is it possible? That was my question.
Вы еще question на question сейчас.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay. Next
So
week.
to answer the question and why we say the Kohanim say in honor of Aaron.
Right,
So what will be the answer to that?
next week.
Next week.
Next week when we learn about Pinchas,
Yeah.
and Pinchas doing what he was doing, When they say when you eat teruma, in the days when they eat teruma, they will make a bracha asher yitzanu b'kedushasa shel Aaron lechol b'teruma. All the brachot that the Kohanim made
through the Quran.
was asher ki deshanu, you made me holy b'kedushasa shel Aaron. And they asked the question. But at least 50% of the Kohanim came b'kedushasa shel Pinchas, who was a non-Kohen who became a Kohen.
But he was a Levi from the Aaron.
He was, but the chain of kahuna started with him. There was no link.
No connection.
There was no connection. Aaron was a Kohen, Pinchas was a Levi. Then Pinchas was put up as a Kohen, but there was not linked.
Next week.
I guess the link started as soon as he became a Kohen, and the link just began on its
But
own.
anyway, they came.
Next week.